But I'd love your calls on this. It's a bit upsetting, this. Let's just get through this first bit, because we're going to have to show you some film here. Was it okay for police officers to use pepper spray and a taser on a 92-year-old man with one leg in a care home? 0207 862 2222. We'd love your thoughts here. The two police officers, crucially, have been found not guilty of assault after they were called to a care home to deal with a resident called Donald Burgess. He was reportedly threatening staff with a knife, and what I'll tell you before we see this is the knife is basically cutlery knife, so it's not like a machete or anything. And we now understand that he had a urinary tract infection. So before we look at the footage, just a warning that you might find this a bit upsetting.
Right, put it down. Drop the knife. Drop the knife. Put it on the floor.
Do it now. Drop the knife.
Donald, drop the knife.
Donald.
Put it down. Put it down.
Taser, taser.
OK, the officer on the left who used the pepper spray, which you saw, told the court he did not see the resident was disabled and only had one leg. He was focused on the knife. The officer who fired the taser said she did so because she believed it was the safest method of disarming him. The Sussex Police Assistant Chief Constable has said that both officers will still face gross misconduct proceedings, even though they were cleared in court. Mr. Burgess's family said that they were disappointed and saddened by the not guilty verdict. He's since died, and I think he died because he picked up an infection when he went to hospital after this incident.
COVID,
yeah. Oh... What do you think?
Well, look, I'm sorry, I have to say that was an upsetting video. But what worries me is the constant challenge now to the jury system in this country. Now, you know, this all went to court. It was a very, very open investigation, i.e. a trial in a court in this country. And the two officers were found not guilty unanimously by a jury of 12 people.
But juries get things wrong.
Well... Yes, but at least they know all the facts and they're all put before them and they're, 12 men, women, true and justice must prevail, and they came up with a not guilty verdict. Now, I just can't understand this guy, this Assistant Chief Constable, coming out afterwards and saying they're going to face gross misconduct proceedings. What we didn't see on that video was, at one stage, the victim, Mr. Burgess, jabbed the knife towards the police officer and said, "I'm going to murder you and I will enjoy that." Now, those officers were...
He had a urinary tract infection.
Sorry?
He had a urinary tract infection.
They didn't know that at the time. They had not been given a full detail of the man's medical condition. All they could see was a guy who was out of control, waving a knife around and threatening to kill them.
What do you think, Yasmin?
Well, I sort of three-quarters agree with what Mike has said, that, we have a jury system. And on the whole, it works and people consider things very carefully. But having read and watched more about it and watched this, there are questions to answer, because nobody could have been physically fearful of this man who was clearly old and sitting on a wheelchair.
You want to see the knife here? This is relevant. As I say, it's not a machete. It's basically a...
But it's a serrated knife.
Well, when you say it's serrated, let's just exact... It's a butter knife. It's cutting bread. What do you mean serrated?
It's got the zigzags on top. That's all.
Well, you need a microscope to see that.
But they kept asking him to drop the knife. And he wouldn't drop. You heard them. Drop the knife, drop the knife. So how are they going to get the knife off him? If they approach him, he was threatening to stab them.
Shut the door, come back, say, look, we'll see you in half an hour. We want the knife on the floor by then. Enjoy some TV. We're not going to muck around. Just don't cause any trouble.
Yeah.
But
that's how I'd calm it down.
I think there are questions to be asked about why the medical condition wasn't seen by the... But I also think that this is good, because we've had the verdict, and I think we respect it, although juries have got it wrong, and the police have often behaved shockingly with citizens, and that has resulted in terrible injuries or death even. But I think it's important for the Independent Office for Police Conduct and others to look again.
Well, it's good. It's good that I think what's good is we do see the footage. There's no cover-up, and we could discuss it. Shirley in Lancashire, you've just watched it. What do you think?
I think it was over the top, absolutely shocking. that gentleman had a medical condition that can make you do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, but they didn't know that.
I've worked, well, they should have been told before they went in, because you'll be going to every nursing home in Britain.
And
where,
you've been
you
a
know,
nurse.
with that,
You've been a
30
nursing,
years.
a care home nurse.
Auxiliary nurse in
Sure.
a hospital for
Okay.
30 years.
Right.
I've dealt with aggressive people. We all had to. I've even been Chinese burned because they thought I was a Burmese soldier.
You've been Chinese
I
burned.
never, yeah, down to ground, but we never called the police. The doctors were called and he was put on medication.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the way we're going now with the world, what it is, you're collectively blaming people and using these tasers and all that because they might. But, I mean, like you said, you were the most sensible. If you'd have been working at that nursing home, yeah, shut the door, say, watch a bit of TV and come back in half an hour and see what he was like. Then he'd one leg.
Well,
He
I think we've got quite a lot of pro-taser people in today.
Just a minute, I must say this. All of us could be 92 and tread that way. No, because you're ill. Because you've got a medical condition. No.
All right,
no,
Shelley.
it's not on.
Thank you very much, Dee. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder, looking at it, I'm going to try and see the police's side here. Yeah. Those are young officers. It's possible that the female officer was even younger than the male officer. She's been trained and she's doing it by the book. So she's got a male with a knife who's used the word murder. Absolutely. And she's trigger happy.
Absolutely. And by the way, you couldn't blame police officers in this country now for feeling that the justice system doesn't support them. Think of the Chris Cabba situation, OK? Chris Cabba was the guy who was shot by a police officer who went before a jury and was found not guilty, only to come out of the court to be told by his force, I think it was the Metropolitan Force, you are facing an internal inquiry. Who would be a police officer?
No, it's quite right.
Who would be a police officer?
You can't behave like this with the public.
But only the jury know all the facts.
Well, hang on, Angela in Derbyshire is on the line. You've been assaulted, Angela, I think, have you?
Yes, I have. Yes, by the a Derbyshire police officer. Yeah, on an evening out. He was off duty. He thought there was an incident that happened, and I tried to stop it. And I ended up, he reverse headbutted me, punched me about 7 or 8 times to the face and the head, knocked me unconscious. I had seizures, and he then, when I came round, officers arrived on the scene. He then proceeded to arrest me, put himself on duty. He was drunk, and then following that, everything was allowed. He was allowed to arrest me. Nothing was challenged, nothing at all by the Derbyshire Constabulary. It's just been an absolute nightmare for the last 6 years.
And it was the initial incident that he got involved in. Was you were not a protagonist in that? You were...
No, not at all. I was a peacemaker. Because it ended up, they managed to get the case to go to the CPS, believe it or not. In the magistrate's court, it was all... it was very nicely done by themselves. I appealed because I got found guilty. I went to appeal it, and at the appeal with the Crown Court judges and stuff, it ended up where they turned around and said that I was a peacemaker from start to end, and that's how it was. And so, yeah, but still nothing's happened to that officer. He'd been working from that very day all the way through, despite I had epilepsy, and it brought my epilepsy back. And there's been no accountability from anybody in Derbyshire Constabulary to this very day.
Yeah, that sounds awful, Angela. Thank you. I know. Well, I know it's odd. I mean, you'd want to hear more about it.
Before a jury, did it? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
The point I'm making all the time is the jury system has to be respected in this country, and we have to have faith in it.
You don't like people questioning the result of trials?
Listen, the jury has seen it all. Until somebody comes up with alternative facts to put before another jury, take the Lucy Letby case, OK?
Well, there's an example, yeah. We'll take the Timothy Evans case, exactly. who was hanged for killing his wife and daughter.
Yeah.
When it was the landlord who did it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have questioned that.
you can't question every guilty verdict that comes out of a court. What you can do is you can go back to the legal system in this country, which has an extensive system of appeal.
Well,
and it, generally speaking, works. Of course, there are a few mistakes.
Yeah, Birmingham 6, Guildford 4. Deed in Manchester, hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Jeremy. Great show. I love to the panel.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lively one today, isn't it? What do you think of this 92-year-old gentleman who's not with us anymore?
I cannot believe that 2 trained police officers couldn't handle a 92-year-old man in a wheelchair with one leg. Why couldn't they talk him down?
Yeah.
I mean, 92.
I'll tell you what, Deed, let me just while you're there, let me bring in Lisa in Surrey. You see this more from the police's side, Lisa?
No, I see it. I'm a registered mental health nurse.
Yeah.
So I see it, like I have dealt with it. So before you call the police, you would have tried a lot of de-escalation techniques. And then when they've failed, you call the police. And when they come in, the police, before they just discharge the taser, they do try to de-escalate as well, try to get as much information they can from staff before they approach the patient.
What about that, Deed? They've tried everything.
Well, I agree with what she's saying, but my daughter-in-law is a trained nurse with disability people and mental health people and has been attacked. But they've always talked it down. And why weren't the police informed about his situation, his health situation, when they went in? Because I believe that is protocol.
Also, they might not have been able to see that he only had one leg if he had a blanket on it or something. Thank you very much, Deed and Lisa. Wow, what a story. Poor Mr. Burgess. After the break, it's the papers and everything else.